1, 2, 3.
Let's go. Hey YouTube, I wanted to talk to you today about a topic that I've heard a lot of people talk about in foster care places, and people find out you're doing foster care and they have this same response all the time. I could never do that. I could never say goodbye to those kids. That would be too hard. And the joke is, if you're someone who does foster care, the joke is what you hear is, oh, I could never be a stone cold, terrible person like you who doesn't attach to kids and just lets them go. Like, I could never do that. What a horrible person you are. So that's what a lot of foster parents hear or joke about when they talk about people who say that. Here's the deal. It is hard. It's really hard to say goodbye to kids. It's hard when people come into your home and you naturally fall in love with them and then they go away. And sometimes they go away without much notice. Sometimes you're told you're going to be adopting that child and then you don't or can't. Sometimes they show up at your door to drop off another kid and go, oh, by the way, we're taking Johnny. We're taking him with us right now too. True story. So it is very hard when that happens. It's not easy. And so I get it. Like, we get it. Foster parents understand that it's hard to say goodbye. So I had a few points about that. One, we are adults. And hopefully as adults, we have developed coping skills and social networks, groups around us who can support us through these hard times. The children who come into care, they don't have that. They're being ripped away from everyone they know. They're being ripped away from everyone that they've cared about. Suddenly, they're put in this strange environment. Then, if they start to attach with us, and they're ripped away again and either move to another foster home, to a group home, or to their biological family again, that's another transition, another loss. That's hard. So that's really hard for them. They're the ones going through the hard stuff. And the truth is, we're adults. They're kids. Someone's got to be there for them. And yeah, it's hard. It is so hard. It's hard to be there for kids in a very difficult system that doesn't support you, that doesn't seem to care about you or kids at all sometimes, that makes bad choices, bad decisions. When you see that there are some, not all, there's a lot of really good social workers, but some social workers who don't do a great job, it's really hard when you see all of that going on. It's harder for the kid than it is for you. Point 2. It's hard, but meaningful things are hard. I went to college. Probably a lot of you have gone to college. It kicked my butt. It was hard. I worked really long hours. I stayed up all night sometimes studying for tests. I had term papers and other papers that I'd have to write that would take me crazy amounts of time, and I felt sometimes just completely out of my depth. Not to mention when I went on to graduate school, that made it even more difficult. And the first paper I did in graduate school, I got a D on, and I had to go and learn how to write papers on a graduate school level. It is hard. Was it worth it for me to go to graduate school, to go to college? Yeah, I loved it. Well, I mean, I love having that experience. I don't know that I loved it, but I loved having the experience of learning and being able to take what I learned in school and apply it to my situations in the real world. I think that was really helpful. There was a team I worked with in a foreign country, in a Middle Eastern country. We worked with street kids. And these were kids who, as they grew up, tended to just sniff glue and hang out on the streets. And the reason was, like, the village I worked in had one soccer ball and one radio for maybe 200 kids. That's all they had. And they shared and they played together a lot. But at some point, kids tended to drift away from that as they grew up, and they drift into negative things, and there was nothing there. There were no programs. They had school some. They had to be bused quite a ways away to school, but there were no programs or anything to help them. So we went into this area. We invested. Working with kids who spoke a different language, there was a team of us who went in and we decided to do some programs for these children during the summer. We ran like a day camp for them and included them and got them involved. And it really opened the eyes of the community, and it actually opened the eyes of the government, because a lot of the kids who were of that age where they normally transition into sniffing glue and doing some other negative things, they appeared not to transition into that summer. And so the government actually stepped in as we were about to leave and said, we want to keep doing this program. We want to keep this going all year round. Was it easy? Well, foreign country, didn't speak the language, different culture, different foods, different everything. We had to figure all of that out. Was it easy? Heck no, it was so hard. And yet I look back, and I think most of that team looks back, and we see that as one of the most valuable experiences of our lives, going in and starting something for this community, something that was really needed. It was hard. Plus, like, can you imagine if a plumber came to your house, you were paying them whatever it is you pay plumbers, like $1 jillion an hour or whatever it is now, and they come, they take one look at your pipes and go, oh, nope, just not worth it, I'm out. You would be furious. So why would people do that with kids? Oh yeah, that's gonna hurt my heart. I'm out. That trauma through the scars that they have on their hearts, they're going to be there for a long time, and working with them takes a lot of patience, takes a lot of effort. Like, you can't just sit on your bum. You've got to get out there, take them to counseling, take them to appointments. You've got to really be proactive about learning how to work with children with trauma. This is all stuff that you have to do, and it's not for everyone, but they're worth it. So I want to, number 3, have a few tips for you for coping, because it is so hard. But before I do that, I want to share that when I lost my first placement, it was the first placement after Robert. When that child left, I was deeply saddened, and it was like there was a cloud around me all the time. Everything was blurry, everything was cloudy. It was a difficult time, and I remember at one point standing in the grocery store looking at a can of peas, and I just started crying. And there was no meaning behind the can of peas. It just happened to be where I shut down, right there in that aisle. And suddenly the tears started coming and I started crying. At that point, I realized I needed some help. I pursued counseling, and that's number 1. I recommend that you would go seek professional help when a child transitions and you're having a really hard time. Now, there will be some kids possibly in your home that you'll be like, woohoo, like they're gone, celebration. That happens once in a while, because some children are so tough that you can't help but feel that way a little bit when those kids leave. But counseling is very important, and that would be the first step I would recommend. Number 2, time. Things get better in time. Like any loss you experience. Now, everyone grieves in their own way, and that grieving looks different, but honestly, time is a huge healer of pain. So when a child moves out of your house, maybe don't take another child in for a little while until you've had time to really deal with your pain. Again, if what you're worried about is your heart breaking when kids leave, counseling and time are huge components of that healing process. You need to attach. Don't avoid attaching. These are kids who need to learn how to attach. They need healthy attachment. That's a huge part of their healing in their lives. It's so critical that we attach with those kids. But attachment, when we separate, that does hurt. So the third thing I'd say is support groups. I'm part of 2. They're awesome. I'm part of 2 in-person support groups and a number of Facebook support groups, both specialized ones like for single foster parents, one just for foster parents in my state, one for children with certain special needs, and then one that's a more local one online as well. Like part of a lot of Facebook groups, but all of those have been really helpful. Reading through other people's stories, understanding how other people have dealt with issues, and then also being able to post when I have a problem, saying, what do people do with this issue, and getting some advice. Super important, super helpful. But when it comes to coping, those groups really help you deal, because a lot of them have gone or are going through it as well. Especially those in-person groups, they really help you deal, because face-to-face, there's someone who understands you, who knows what you're feeling, who can help you express the things that you can't express yourself. Which for me, that's a huge thing. Like often other folks will give words to the things that I can't give words to. That's a beautiful thing. My last tip, number 4, prayer or meditation. We talked about time, but I feel like quiet, reflective time in prayer or in meditation is also critical for healing your soul. When kids leave, it affects you on a deep level. Even if it's a good thing that they're leaving, like even if we're celebrating, like yes, they get to go back and be with the biological family. We've been working so hard for this for so long. It still hurts. And I feel like we really still need that time of quiet, that prayer, that time of talking to God, or that introspective meditation, looking at ourselves, blocking out the negative and focusing on the good that's happened, focusing on the good moments. I feel like we need that. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for listening to me. Again, when people ask, why would I do something that's going to hurt my heart? I hope they really look at the answer, which is that because kids are worth it. They are. And somebody has to be there for those kids.
My home was lonesome since my mother, she